itself out. Now I'm here to give Mr. David Lammy a little bit of a helping hand, because it seems he doesn't seem quite able to, for some reason, I'm going to turn the sound off of my computer so that it doesn't interrupt, so it doesn't drown out everything I'm trying to say. If people can just stop copying for it, commenting for a minute. Okay. Now, I'm assuming with my sound off, you can still hear me, yeah? Little thumbs up on that one. Maybe not. Maybe I've got to have it on. I don't know. Brilliant. Right. Mr. David Lammy, it seems, needs a little lesson, as he can't understand. Yes, this is for my friend. He doesn't seem to be able to get his head round, doesn't understand how comes there can be a 50%, I believe there's something like a 50% rise in Muslim inmates. Okay, he doesn't get it. He says it's got nothing to do with radicalisation. Well, okay, yeah, I'll accept that. You're probably right, seeing as most of them bastards are not in prison. Now, at the moment, they claim that Muslim prisoners behind bars jumped to 13,200. I would say that's not quite an honest number. I'd say it's probably a little bit higher. And that Muslims now account for 15% of all prisoners, yet are only 5% of the population. That's the bit you've got to remember. It's not when people go, yeah, they're only 15% of the population in prisons. Makes no difference. They're only apparently 5% of the population. So if they're only 5% of the population, but they're 15% of the inmates, that's a huge, huge, huge portion of a 5% population. Now, according to David Lammy, he says this is unexplained. He says more data is required to explain and understand why the rise occurred. He also says that maybe trial decisions and outcomes affecting numbers. Yeah, that's called common sense, David. Common sense tells you that obviously trial outcomes are going to play a part in this. How could they not? But let me make this very clear, and I'm going to have to minimise my screen minute, so if anything you're typing, I'm afraid I just won't see, right? Because there's something I want David Lammy to understand. According to you, Muslims, the rise of Muslims in prison now has gone up 50%, and you're saying that the population of Muslim inmates, this is not accounting for converts, this is not accounting for, according to you, radicalisation. I'd agree with you if we take those stats into numbers. Whoa, we're talking big numbers then, aren't we? But I want to help you to understand that actually the numbers, you're right, the numbers are wrong, Mr. Lammy. The numbers are wrong. The reason the numbers are wrong are because of the amount of Muslims walking away scot-free with no charges whatsoever. And if all of the grooming gangs were to be counted in your numbers, imagine how high the percentage would be then. But most of these don't get tried and are walking around scot-free willy-nilly. So I'm going to help you, Mr. Lammy. Anybody who's got Mr. David Lammy on his profile, he's a politician. He's also a bit of a hater of anyone who isn't the right colour, i.e. is my colour. Not overly much of a fan of them. So, here you go, Mr. Lammy. Please take this on board, because I think this is very, very important. There are so far, and I will name them all for all of those that don't know, there is a huge percentage of Muslims not being done or arrested or charged or found guilty for crimes of rape, grooming, molestation, sexual assault, threatening behaviour, to name just a few of the so-called problems going on. So I'm going to tell you the names of the places where grooming gangs are, have and still are operating. Are you ready, Mr. Lammy? Because this might come as a little bit of a shock to you. And maybe I should have done this on YouTube. Maybe I'll even upload it to YouTube so it can be sent over to you. So are you sitting comfortably? If so, then I will begin. So we have Keighley, Blackpool, Nelson, Oldham, Blackburn, Preston, Sheffield, Manchester, Rotherham, Skipton, Rochdale, Derby, Telford, Bradford, Ipswich, Birmingham, Oxford, Barking, Peterborough, Aylesbury, Stevenage, Mile End, Bethnal Green, Hackney, London Fields, Whitechapel, Finsbury Park, Sunderland, Leicester, Harrow, Bristol, Coventry, Kent, Newcastle, Harlow, Stoke-on-Trent, Torquay, Nottingham, Portsmouth, Bury, Lee, Leeds, Great Norton, Wolverhampton, Middlesbrough, High Wycombe, Hayes, Colchester, Halifax, Dewsbury and Batley, Carlisle, Dudley, Scunthorpe, Cambridge, Huddersfield, Shrewsbury, Banbury, Stockton, Plymouth, Bournemouth, Luton, Slough, Chesham, Burton, Accrington, Yeovil, Dewsbury, Littlehampton, South Shields, Redcar, Toxteth, Kensington, Liverpool, Glasgow and Walsall. Now I think I may have accidentally read a couple of them twice, so it's always a possibility. But I would say, Mr. Lammy, if all of these scumbags were arrested, charged and put in prison, what would be the percentage of Muslim inmates then? It's a funny old thing, isn't it? That you choose to ignore. You choose to ignore what is happening to these girls. And his article, which I've got open here, it's a real eye-opener, really. So let me see if I can find it. We have here, this is what he added. He added that the courts do not record defendants' religion. No, but the police do, David Lammy. Even though you may not think they do, they do. And said this practice meant it was impossible to understand why the Muslim population behind bars had surged. The report published on Friday was commissioned by David Cameron last year when he was the Prime Minister. He concludes, we know far too little about what has been driving this trend. Well, I think we do know what's driving the trend, David. We do. It is racism against anybody who's not Muslim. We simply do not know, he said. This gap needs to be taken seriously. I agree. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Just not in the way that you think. He goes on to say, one reason put forward for the increase is terrorism, but experts claim the relatively small conviction rate for crimes cannot attribute to the rise. Did you get that, people? Did you get relatively small convictions for terror? How many terror attacks have occurred? Let's just go through one or two of them, shall we? Westminster, Borough Market, Buckingham Palace, Ariana Grande, Leytonstone Station, not to mention all the acid attacks and the random stabbings that took place in London on London Bridge. So that's just a few of them, and yet the numbers are relatively low. And even if the number of prisoners who have converted is too low to account for the jump. Lammy's report did, however, find large racial disparities in sentencing. His study, bearing in mind this is his study, and he wouldn't, of course, as a black man, he wouldn't be biased at all. His study found that for every 100 white women given, why women? Why women? You want to be looking at the men's sunshine. For white women given prison sentences at Crown Courts for drug offences, 227 black women were given the same. So for every 100 white women given a prison sentence for drugs, 227 black women were given the same. reports the HuffPost. Yeah. You kind of went down the lines of why were you looking at the women? I said, well, I would suggest you go and have a look at the men. He says, similarly, for black men, it was 141 for every 100 white men. So what you're really saying, Mr. Lammy, is you're a bit of a racist because what really pisses you off is that there happens to be more people of your ethnicity committing these crimes than people of my ethnicity. Whereas you see, I just see people who are drug dealers. You see colour. I'd say you're a bit of a racist. Oh, that's right. We know you're a bit of a racist. Justice Secretary and Lord Chancellor David Lidington said figures about to be published by the government may shed some light on what was behind the rise. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. That is why the Prime Minister ordered the unprecedented collection of data, allowing the clearest understanding to date of how someone's ethnicity can impact on their day-to-day life, which will be... See, they want to make this about racism. He wants to talk about racism, but he doesn't want to mention... Let's not... We've got to look at this now. Right? He wants to talk about racism. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that Nazim Shah has asked for the violence in Rakhine State to be investigated by our government. Okay. You want them to investigate that, Nashar, at the same time as retweeting someone that said that, I believe, hang on a minute, let's just say, Corbyn ally shares message telling Rotherham sex abuse victims to be quiet for the good of diversity. That came out of... That was a tweet. It was actually a fake account, what they thought was an Owen Jones account. But Nashar retweeted that tweet and she liked it. She tried to claim, well, she accidentally retweeted it. Well, did you accidentally retweet and like at the same time? You're a liar, Nashar. And when I was standing for the Police and Crime Commissioner elections, we actually had you out on your anti-Semitism back then. And now you've proved you don't care. You don't care about the girls of Rotherham. They should shut up for the sake of diversity. They need to shut their mouths for the sake of diversity. David Lammy says, well, I think maybe what's happening is black people are being targeted for crimes. Let me tell you now, Sadiq Khan brought in a change of policy where he said no more stop and search because he believed it to be racist. So he wanted the stop and search stopped. Since the stop and search stopped, knife crime has not only gone up tenfold, that instead of now, where before they were stopping people with 3-inch or just over 3-inch blades, no, now they're finding people with machetes and bowie knives and swords and daggers. Well done, Mr. Khan, in your pandering and appeasement of don't stop and search anybody if they happen to be a colour that you choose. It will even itself out. Well, it didn't, did it? The knife crime went up. So I say, stop pandering, okay? If it proved that within that community, unfortunately, knife crime was greater within that community. You did a stop and search, it's very racist. Knife crime went up. Hello? Anybody home? Anybody there? Because it seems to me like the lights are on and everyone's left and gone on holiday. David Lammy, same for you. Anybody home? Lights are on, you're all out on holiday. Your brains do not seem to be able to compute that whether you like it or not, these, like I've said, I wrote it down here. I'm going to keep this for the next time I'm on RT. When they say data and stats, give me data and stats. Well, okay, let's give you data and stats then, shall we? How's this for data and stats? Muslim prison population, according to stats, is up by 50% in the last decade. Muslim prisoners behind bars jumps to 13,200. That is not counting those that were arrested for radicalisation or radical behaviour or terrorism. Muslims now account for 15% of prisoners, yet are only 5%, according to stats, of the population. So why don't you, Nashar, Sadiq Khan, David Lammy, get on RT with me and explain to me how you don't understand it, because I'll break it down in simple common sense. I am quite good at that. I've got a lot of common sense. I'm very, very good at it. Honestly, I'm sure you'll go away most upset and you'll cry and you'll bleat and you'll wander off like a big crybaby, because that's what you do. You do not have the ability to accept there is a major problem within the Muslim community, and whilst it does not mean all Muslims, of course it's not all Muslims, there is a major bloody problem. But what you'd rather do, David Lammy, is scream racism, racism. This must be because they're arresting people willy-nilly for no real reason and putting them behind bars. No, I say if they went after all of them that were committing crimes such as rape, then the prisons, the population, would be phenomenal when it came to the Muslim population. But that's just my opinion, David. And as I said, all of those towns and cities, the countless girls, the countless mums now in touch with me, telling me how it happened to their daughter, and that the police officers lost vital evidence, that the police officers failed to act, that all of these people turned their back on it while it was happening. Sarah Champion herself turned around and said up to possibly 1 million girls. Well, you see, you have to look at the bigger picture as well. So when you look at, for example, let's take Newcastle. And everybody's going, oh, good, they went to prison. They did. How many girls were sold to how many men? How many men? So in other words, how many men purchased these girls? How many? Because you see, they're still walking around free. These were only the ones that were trafficking the girls. Every man, and some of these girls will be forced to sleep with up to 8 or 9 men a night. They didn't get those 8 or 9, did they? And I guarantee that would have been within the Muslim community. They were passed to uncles, brothers and cousins. Statement of fact. Statement of fact. But they were not arrested and charged. So there are thousands and thousands of these Muslim scumbags that think raping little white girls is perfectly acceptable walking the streets. Those few that went behind bar are nothing in comparison if they raped a girl from the age of 13 and they trafficked her until she's 15, 16, 17. Each time a group of different men, sometimes the same men, but often groups of different men. Still think we're getting the right numbers in there, do you, David Lammy? Or do you still think it's too high? I say it's not high enough. And I would say that if we was to build a prison on Anthrax Island, just off of Scotland, where they tested anthrax, let's build a prison there. Let's put the bastards on that island. Make them build their own prison. I don't care if you're white, black, Muslim, non-Muslim. Rape a child, rape a girl, commit acts of paedophilia, go out and sell girls as property, put them out on Anthrax Island and sell their asses out there. Right? Sell their asses into slavery. Make them build the prison that they're going to spend the last of their days in. Maybe I'm a bit extreme. Maybe you can claim I'm a far right extremist. Let's face it, it's what you're good at. It's what you're good at. Isn't it, David Lammy? Nashar, Sadiq Khan, who thinks that other Muslims who speak out, according to Sadiq Khan, are Uncle Toms. People need to look up what an Uncle Tom is. It's a very derogatory thing to call a Muslim that just doesn't see things your way, Sadiq. You are the racist. David Lammy, you are a racist. Nashar, you're not just a racist. You are a disgrace to the very form of female. To think that girls in Rotherham should just shut their mouths for the sake of diversity. I think you need to shut your mouth, Nashar. I think you should be fired forthwith, pending no investigation, because the evidence is clear. Fire her backside. No pension, no payout, no severance, no nothing. Get her out. But you won't do that, will you, Mr. Corbyn? You won't do that. You forced Sarah Champion to resign because she said the word Pakistani men. I mean, really, she should have called it what it was. These were Muslim men. Forget whether they were Pakistani, they were Muslim men. Some of them were from Iraq, some from Afghanistan, some were Kurdish. These were Muslim men. But she hasn't quite got that one yet. But she did say predominantly Pakistani men, which is true. And you forced her to resign, didn't you, Jeremy? That's what you did. That's how you dealt with it. But Nashar can tweet or retweet somebody that says girls of Rotherham should shut their mouths for the sake of diversity. She even tweeted out, if I remember rightly, when I stood for the police and crime culture, which is almost 2 years ago, I believe she said something like, Hitler is a great man. Still got a job with you though, hasn't she, Jeremy? Now, you know what I'm saying here, boy? You know what I'm saying? I'm saying you're an anti-Semitic, Jeremy, because you support Hamas and you support the IRA. You're a disgrace. And me personally, your arse should be forced to resign too. All of this is an utter disgrace. It's a disgrace to every girl trafficked, groomed and abused. It's a disgrace to every person who suffered. We've got Adebol OJ and Adebol Ole. One of them is, I think it's Adebol OJ, is trying to get something like £100,000 for a tooth he got knocked out by a prison officer when they were trying to get him into his cell. And as Lee Rigby's mum has said, he shouldn't get a single red cent. But he will, because the European Court of Human Rights, which we are still tied to until Theresa May pulls her finger out and tells the EU to go and shove it sideways because they're getting not a red cent from us. And actually, here's our bill, EU, for when we sent our men over and rebuilt Germany after the war. And here's our bill because we signed a trade agreement we didn't sign to up for the EU, so therefore you've been taking money from us under false pretenses. But she doesn't have the balls to do it. And until she does, we're still bound by the European Court of Human Rights. And this piece of shit that beheaded one of our soldiers in broad daylight on our streets outside a primary school is suing for 100,000. And I guarantee he'll get it. And every person out there goes to work, pays taxes. I've paid taxes most of my life until I got health problems. You're paying for it. You're all going to pay for that. You're all going to give this man £100,000. And quite frankly, that's a disgrace. So I say, Jeremy Corbyn, I would like your resignation. Sadiq Khan, I would like your resignation. Nashar, I would not only like you to be resigned, I would like you held accountable. I would like you charged with your offences. I would like you tried. And I would like you thrown into prison, seeing as we're throwing people into prison for putting a bit of bacon on a door handle of a mosque, or we're throwing them into prison for throwing an empty water bottle to the ground, or we're going to throw them into prison because they stupidly wrote something that they shouldn't have written. I agree, shouldn't have written it on Facebook. It's a stupid thing to do, but we're imprisoning them. So I'd like to see you in prison, Naz, for being anti-Semitic, for being hateful towards every white girl that was raped. I'd like to see your ass in prison, Naz. Don't worry, I'd write to you. Oh, I'd write to you. In fact, I'm sure everybody on here would write to you to tell you what an utter disgrace you are to humanity. But that's what I'd like to see done. And if need be, if I have to take Maria's out onto the streets and do things that way, well, same with me, do what we've got to do then, won't we? But let's see where this goes. For now, everybody, stay safe, have a great weekend, be good, be careful. And don't run, tell, hide. If you've got bad legs like I've got, I can't run. Hide, middle of a high street, behind, well, what would you, I mean, I'm a big girl, I can't hide behind a lamppost. So, not quite sure where I'm going to hide. Tell. Got to find a police officer first to tell, haven't I? So I would rather say, if there's a terror attack happening yes, run. If you've got, and you hear an explosion, run. But it tells you something when there was an electrical explosion in London. And the first thing that people did was run because they thought it was a terror attack. But according to you, Sadiq Khan, we're not cowed and we're not in fear. And I say bullshit on that too. So actually don't run, tell, hide. If you see somebody with a machete, run at him, take him down and disarm him. Sorry, maybe I'm wrong for saying it, but that's my opinion. Everybody be good, stay safe, stay safe, whatever you do, wherever you are, stay safe. To my friends out in Texas, that's why I wore this dress today. That the floods are going on, you know, you're in my thoughts. I just want you to know you're never forgotten. You're in my thoughts. Please stay safe, especially you, Debs, you, Ed. Please stay safe. Be good, everybody. Stay out of mischief. Bye.